I've had the opportunity over the last 40 years to work with 7 U.S. presidents and actually interview 3 children of heads of state around the world. My first one was Joseph Stalin's daughter, Svetlana Stalina. I helped her get a visitor's visa. She told about the memoirs of her father and wrote her book, and we got her to this country, and I covered all of that. The second one was Tracy Shimon from Lebanon, whose grandfather created Lebanon and whose father ran for president, was assassinated, her uncle ran parliament, and I had the opportunity and privilege to help her because someday she'd love to be president of Lebanon. Today I have another child of a very, very famous head of state, the Shah of Iran. This is his son. His mother was the queen, and today I'm interviewing the crown prince and His Royal Majesty. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Let me just ask, you're coming in November 22nd for a major function. This is the chairman of the Institute, which you'll explain in a second, and John has been with your father and with you for many years and has been very helpful to the family and just adores you and will do anything for you, I can see. Would you explain why you're coming in and what you're trying to achieve, and then I'll go and you'll explain the Institute.
Well, as you will clearly see in the mission statement, the objective is, of course, to bring people together and through people's power launch a campaign aimed at raising awareness, education, and all the tools necessary to help people in need in a region that deserves much better than what they've got. And through that process, be able to bring the kind of change that will ultimately culminate in ushering in an era where all this discrimination and injustice disappears, and instead we have all the working formulas for a better, brighter future for various people and citizens of countries that can live together in harmony, in peace, and nobody will ever question somebody else's faith or religion or sexual orientation or what have you. All of this takes a lot of effort. It takes structure, it takes organization, and most importantly, it takes people's participation. We all agree that our approach to the subject is to use people's resources as a means of direct participation and empowerment. We're not looking for government sources, we're not looking for any kind of miracle formula. If things were to happen, it's on the basis of people contributing, taking ownership of these projects, feel that they are part of it, they're not just passive observers, and we hope to be able to achieve that by bringing the elements that will not only inform the general public as to what needs to be done, but through their help actually help those most in need. We want to be the defenders and the advocates of those who are forced into silence, who have nobody to turn to, and for them to know that they're not alone. The most important part about this exercise is for our audience to understand. We don't believe in creating structures that does the job for people. It's rather a structure that helps channel all the means that further the cause of people by giving them more tools or means to do it themselves. This is why we need to make sure that the people who are going to support this understand that their help and their participation is like giving a helping hand to those in need, so they can better do whatever they have set out to do with no help whatsoever. And the difference is between night and day.
So this is really a coalition of people from all over the world, of all religions, all ethnics, coming together. It's the people power, like we are the world, right?
Absolutely.
Doctor, let me ask you, Dr. Sherry Raz, you're the chairman of the Institute for an Open Society in the Middle East. Tell us about that.
The Institute is funding people, think tanks, the Iranian Council, any other organizations, women's organizations who believe that they can help and formulate a way that we can have a peaceful coexistence throughout the world. Our problem basically is that we find people are disenfranchised, they don't know where to go, who to turn to, how to help, and what to do. And so we have disenfranchised indigenous people in the Middle East. We have disenfranchised people in the United States who feel like their hands are tied behind their back. And what we're saying is that our organization is a channel for your voice. We want your voices to be heard, and they can be heard through us. We're looking into think tanks as well, and we're looking into having partnership and coalitions with other organizations that are humanitarian organizations and throughout the world, actually.
All right, John, why don't you pronounce your last name and explain? You've been a longtime friend of the royal family, of the Shah and the Prince and his mother, the Queen. What role do you play, and how would you utilize the money that's going to be raised?
We organize an institute that is called an Institute for an Open Society in the Middle East, and the function for that institute should be to raise funding for helping the people in the Middle East that their voice cannot be heard. And we are trying to help all the women's rights, the democracy in the Middle East, and with the Institute for an Open Society having a fundraising gala on November 22nd at the Kravis Center in West Palm Beach.
So you want to give families in the Middle East, of all the Arab countries, hope and a light in the tunnel, that we hear their cries, that we understand their pain, and that they cannot speak out for fear of their lives, right? How are you going to reach these people?
Through the funding that we are going to raise in Palm Beach, in LA, in New York, and hopefully in Europe, I believe our organization can be able to fulfill that obligation and reach out and help the people, and especially the children of the Middle East that they are sleeping in the box, that their government spend billions of dollars to support the terrorists.
Again, I think the essence of what could be the difference is that people around the globe, irrespective of their ethnicity or faith, understand that it is most importantly about humanity regaining control of their destiny. What we see today has become so inhumane that it's beyond politics. It's just a matter of human decency. And what human being, regardless of which nationality or faith, could we imagine that would not shudder at this vision of people's throat being slashed in a torturous way in the name of one faith? Can we afford to have a future that is painted by this kind of sinister and obscure ideals, as opposed to a world where we can all live side by side in peace, in full tolerance and respect for each other? Now we, the people, can make the difference, and the difference can happen now. You asked earlier a question, how do we communicate? Well, thank God today we have access to technologies that did not exist 20 or 30 years ago. Instant messages can circle the globe in the span of seconds. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. The tools are there. What we need to have is for people to take ownership. And all of these projects will be clearly defined, and I'm sure people may prefer one project over the other. The idea is to put together the appropriate structure to maximize the resources. And as Dr. Ross said, bring in not just people's money that is needed to finance these projects, of course it goes without saying, but most importantly, we need every skill and knowledge applicable to this task, because at the end, it is through this process of information, education, preparation that we can maximize the chance of success of the disenfranchised, because now they're not alone and they have the most possible tools available to them to do what they need to do. That's really what our job is all about, to help them have the maximum means possible to the extent of their initiative in helping themselves to a better future. That's what we owe to each other, and I think this is where collective action and a sense of community rises. So I think people need to understand that this is not just a simple donation. This is basically becoming a full-fledged participant in a process that could make the difference. At the end of the day, I firmly believe that change for the better will happen. Tyrants are bound to fall. It's a fact of history. The question is, at what cost? Our job is not only to make sure that the people will succeed and justice will prevail, but at the least possible cost to the people involved. And that's what the difference is. People will have a much harder time freeing themselves all by themselves, as opposed to bringing the cavalry and give them the maximum possible help. That's what this is all about.
Right, well, I want to clear one thing up for the audience that this is going to be shown to. John, you mentioned that over 90% of the Iranian people really want peace. It's the radicals, it's the ones, it's a very small percentage. Can you explain that that's what we're trying to get out? Because the people are loving people. I mean, the Iranian and Persian people are very, very nice, close friends and people of Israel, of everyone, of the Christians, of everybody. But they can't speak out, and they're like imprisoned in their own country. Tell us what the percentage and what's what.
Well, if you really want to go back to the history, 2,500 years ago, Cyrus the Great came in and freed the Jews and free the religion for everybody, that whoever wants to believe on whatever they want, they were allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. And Iranian people for the past 2,500 years, they really believed that. Until 1979, this fanatic Muslim come in and Ayatollah Khomeini start the war between the Islam and the West. And I don't know why nobody talk about that. I have evidence that Mr. Khomeini announced that this is the war between Islam and the West. And 36 years later, Mr. Kerry says we are not in war. We've been in war. There is 37,000 ISIS. And in the meantime, ISIS started in 1979, but nobody was smart enough to figure that out. ISIS started when Ayatollah Khomeini come in Iran and bring the Palestinian soldier and kill 500,000 people in the first 3 months. So that was the ISIS start. Now, in the meantime, the Iranian people are very lovable people. I guarantee you, over 92% of them. They are peaceful people, they love each other, they love the people in the world, and that only 8 or 9% of those people, they are working with the fanatic mullahs, and just because they get paid, they do anything the mullahs want. And they've been raped, they've been imprisoned. In 2009, when the people, over 4 million people come in the street, the West looked the other way. And as you know, the people in Iran were shouting that Obama, it means Obama, are you with us or with them?
Right.
The people in the world, especially the peace-loving people, to wise up, wake up today, and get rid of this cancerous tumor and get the world better place tomorrow.
And if we really want to achieve at the end of the day genuine democracy and ushering in an era of true civility and human rights, then it has to be through non-violent means. It has to be based on a lasting, stable system, and that's where the people can make the difference collectively. And that's what it's all about. Yes, change for the sake of change is not a goal. Change has to be meaningful. Alternatives have to be clearly defined. The objective has to be clearly addressed. And I think in full transparency, we're making very clear what it is that we're willing to do and what it is that we are not willing to do. And that's also very important for people to decide what movement they want to be part of or not.
You see, when I was 21, I was raised with a little family in Kansas City by the name of Harry Truman. And I thanked Harry. When I was 21, I'll give you a picture to show you that I shared with this audience last year. And I thanked him for creating the state of Israel and helping the Jewish people that had nowhere to go. And he put his hand on my arm, and he looked at me in the eye, and he used to call me Bobby, because I was 8, 10 years old when I grew up with the Truman family. And he says, Bobby, I might have created the state of Israel, but let me tell you, it's important that we have strong allies and that we have peace in the Middle East. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't believe in that. And whatever you can do for what I've put together, help me. Promise me that you'll always look out for not just Israel, but for the Middle East and for peace for everybody. And I kept that promise, Your Majesty, because I've been with 7 U.S. presidents, both Republican and Democrat. And what you're doing and wishing everyone a Happy New Year and giving, I know you recognize the right for not only the Palestinians to have their own land, but for Israel to exist. And it's just what a way to start out a new year, is to meeting all of you and your efforts for everybody concerned. You've been through a lot your whole life that you've devoted to your country and to this family, and my heart goes out, and you're still fighting. And this, may God give you the strength that we can all work together. And I ask the congregation and the rabbi, we must help these people. Let us all work together with the Crown Prince and with the chairman of this institute for peace in the Middle East. Thank you, Robert Weneck.